Good afternoon, friend. Today is going to be a big cooking day. It is 12:43. We have had a really fun family day. This morning, we got to see baby girl. We had an ultrasound this morning. So we did that as a family. We went out to breakfast. We got home and I worked on making sure I had all my recipes I needed for today. We are having friends over tomorrow for an October themed dinner party. I am going to stretch myself when it comes to this dinner party. This is the same group of friends that came over for the apple dinner party, and we're going to really have fun when it comes to decorating this tablescape. So I'm really going to push myself when it comes to this dinner party, setting a really different tablescape than I've ever done before. So here are a couple things. We're gonna make some flower arrangements out of these pumpkins. I haven't decided if I'm gonna use the orange pumpkins or black pumpkins. I'm gonna use some floral foam. We got some red roses and some grasses and some interesting vines. And this is gonna be a lot of fun. We have swim lessons tonight, so I only have so much time to work on prepping tomorrow's menu today before we head out for swim lessons. Once we got back from the ultrasound, we then went to breakfast, our favorite breakfast place. Then Josh helped me clean this kitchen. This kitchen did not look like this morning when we left for the doctor's appointment. So all that to say is that we've kind of had a slow family morning, and now it's time to get to work. Now this menu is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it. I spent a lot of time working on this menu, and I did get input from my friends that are coming for this menu. What we're gonna make, I've never done anything like quite a few of these. Some of these things I've done before, some of them, let me get this slide on, are totally new, and I'm excited to try them with you all. We're gonna do a shaved fennel salad with green apples and arugula, probably lots of Parmesan cheese, and a nice vinaigrette with some sort of nut crunchy thing. I don't know exactly. All I know is we're gonna do fennel, apple, arugula, a vinaigrette. We're gonna figure that out together as we go. We're gonna do a honey nut mac and cheese. I text my friend and I said, actually both of them that are coming over, I said, do you want mac and cheese or risotto? And both of them said mac and cheese. One of them actually said risotto or mac and cheese, and so I said next time we'll do risotto since one friend said mac and cheese. We're gonna do French onion chicken meatballs. I text my friends and I said, do you want beef or chicken? They said chicken, so we're gonna do meatballs. And then we're gonna do a savory pumpkin bread, a no-knead pumpkin bread. We're actually gonna infuse the bread with pumpkin, Parmesan cheese. I haven't decided, but I'm also thinking about infusing it with some sage as well. And we're gonna let that ferment overnight, and then we're gonna shape it and bake it in the shape of a pumpkin. For our drink, we're gonna do a pomegranate ginger punch. This is gonna be a mocktail. My friend's husband is going to be bringing a cocktail for those of the people that want a cocktail. I thought it would be nice to have both a non-alcoholic beverage and a adult beverage offering. And then dessert is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna do 3 desserts. So we have 4 savory dishes, 1 drink, and 3 desserts. We're not doing any appetizers for this dinner. We're gonna do candy apples, and these are gonna be a party favor, and they're gonna be part of the table decorations. Last year, I made candy apples for the first time, and I think I said in that day when we were working together, this would be cool as a table decor / party favor, and I had that thought, and I think we're gonna try to do that today. We're also gonna make some shortbread, kind of spooky fingers, and then we're gonna make a black velvet cake that we're gonna decorate with some bats. And it's going to be, I think, pretty spectacular. So we're going to definitely push ourselves when it comes to this menu, both creativity in the kitchen and creativity with the tablescape. Over the last year or so, I've really been working on kind of trying to improve my creativity, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. These are kind of my hobby things to do, is to come up with a fun menu, come up with a fun tablescape, and bring you all along for that journey. So I preheated my oven. I have 2 ovens preheated right now, one for the black velvet cake and one for the butternut squash. I also need to get some onions caramelizing for the French onion meatballs. And I need to get some water boiling because to make the candy apples, we need to take the wax that comes on apples off. So got to fill this up with some water. I brought up some onions for the caramelized onions, and then I am thawing some pumpkin for the pumpkin bread. This pumpkin puree is from pumpkins we grew in the garden together last year. So I don't really have a plan on what exactly I want to get to today. We're just going to get in the kitchen, get as much done until we have to head to swim lessons. If when we get back from swim lessons and I have energy, we'll keep working. If I don't, I'll get up in the morning and we'll keep working. My goal is to try to get as much of the cooking done today as possible so that we can do some cleaning up, and then I don't have as much to do tomorrow. So I'm gonna get this water on to boil. This is for the candy apples. Should we get the cake going next? Or should we do caramelized onions? Normally I like to get the cake going, so that I was thinking if I feel like I have energy to decorate the cake, I might decorate the cake tonight. Typically I do that in the morning. And I, quite frankly, have not read through all my recipes. I should definitely have read all my recipes through prior to this, but I haven't done that. I think before we start on the cakes, I want to get my caramelized onions caramelizing, because these are going to take a good 45 minutes or so to an hour. This is going to create, we're going to make a creamy sauce, and I thought that that would be good with the mac and cheese. So I've never done a meatball for a dinner party, and so this will be fun. Let's go ahead and get this heating up, and we'll also, while we're prepping veggies, we'll go ahead and get the butternut squash cooking. This is actually not butternut squash. This is honey nut squash. If you've ever had honey nut squash, it is delicious. And I could not find, I sprayed all over my counter, a recipe for a mac and cheese that was exactly what I wanted. So we're gonna make this recipe up. I've got 3 of them here, but I think I only need 2. If you've never had honey nut squash, it is a hybrid that is super, super sweet. So we're gonna have the funkiness of the cheese with the sweetness of the butternut squash, and I think it's gonna be incredible. And this recipe I am totally making up. But if it turns out I can write up the recipe as best as I can. And my food recycler is, you know what, my chickens will eat this. They'll eat any last little bits or extra pieces of squash that I did not get off of here. I already gave them 1 whole pumpkin that came out of my garden. Oh, I have to show you my front porch. It's definitely feeling like fall around here. I took all of the pumpkins that we grew together in the garden, and I made a huge pumpkin display on my front porch, and it looks beautiful. I'm so proud of myself. Let's go look at that real quick. I'm gonna turn this stove off here. I've added little piles of pumpkins everywhere in my house, but what I am most proud of are all these pumpkins we grew together in the garden that I was able to decorate my front porch with. It took me about 2 days to pile up these pumpkins in this way, but I think it turned out so pretty. This definitely stretched my decorating abilities. These were all pumpkins we grew together in the garden, and I think it looks just as pretty from the front as it does from when I kind of walk out of my front door. And then I have another little pile of pumpkins right here, which I think is so fun. I have even more pumpkins in my backyard, so the fact that we're gonna cut into a few pumpkins we grew is not even gonna put a dent into the pumpkins that I'll be able to display on my front porch until Thanksgiving, until after Thanksgiving. I do have some more honey nut squash out in the garden, but they're not ripe yet, and so I'm just letting them hang out there. I haven't pulled my honey nut squash plants yet until they fully ripen. And even though I'm guessing probably 100-ish pumpkins this year, we still went to the pumpkin patch over this last weekend, and we each picked out a pumpkin. And the pumpkins we got at the pumpkin patch, I actually put on my back porch so that when I'm in my kitchen, I can, I forgot to take the skin off, look at those pumpkins, and that's fun too. I have a lot of fond memories of going to the pumpkin patch as a kid and doing all the fun fall activities that I want to make sure I pass on those fun memories to my family. Okay, definitely easier to peel this before you cut it in half. Josh unloaded the dishwasher for me when he was helping me clean up the kitchen. So I'm gonna be able to load dishes as we cook. Some of the dishes we make today, I'm gonna have them fully done, and all I'll have to do is kind of heat them through tomorrow. Some of them, we'll just prep them and we'll finish them tomorrow. Need to get these seeds out. We need to add 1 teaspoon of vinegar to our pot. Let me turn this up a little bit. And we're only gonna put our apples in here for 5 seconds, because all we wanna do is melt the wax coating on the apple. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. And then we gotta wipe all the wax off. One, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Oh yeah, you can definitely feel a difference on them. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Those are probably a little bit fast, but that's okay. I need 6 for the table decor, but I'm gonna do a 7th one just as precaution. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I think I can just use this water to boil our pasta noodles. So I'm gonna go grab that pasta. Oh, I put vinegar in there. That's probably okay, right? But I do want to season this with some salt. My salt's over here. Josh just walked in here. I'm gonna boil this for 11 minutes. On the way home from the doctor's today, we stopped and got an iced tea, and I had bought some raspberries at the grocery store yesterday because they were requested, and I put about 6 in my iced tea, and I had Josh just taste it, and it tastes so good. He said I could drink all of that, so I'm gonna walk away. Okay. There's our apples ready to go. These are absolutely massive onions from my garden. So I don't know if I'm gonna need all 4 of them for the caramelized onions, but I grabbed 4. And these onions are dirty, so I'm gonna get the skins off, and then I'm gonna go wash the white parts of the onions, just to make sure none of that ends up in our dish. Just grabbed a bunch of cheese we need for our mac and cheese. And we're gonna get some butter in this pan melting for our caramelized onions. I need to make room on my cutting board, so I'm just gonna add these as I go. These onions are Walla Walla sweets. Oh, that's my timer for my pasta. This might be more onions than we need, but I've already sliced them. I'm gonna caramelize them, and if I don't go through all of them for this dish, I will just freeze the excess. Caramelized onions freeze beautifully. I do have frozen caramelized onions in my freezer that I could have pulled out, but because I have so many fresh onions from my garden, those are perfect. That need to be used up. I'm just gonna make fresh ones. And I might as well use those first. These are definitely a little bit al dente, but we are going to be baking these again tomorrow because it's gonna be a baked macaroni that I don't want to overcook them. Looks like the tag of that pot holder just came off. If I was going to make this pasta right now, like make the cheese sauce and throw this in the oven, I would not rinse it off with cold water. But because I don't want these to overcook, and we're not baking this until tomorrow, I am gonna run a little bit of cold water over it. And I think the cheese sauce will still stick to the pasta, no problem. I'm gonna make my cheese sauce in this pot. So I went ahead and I put my noodles in the pot we're gonna make our baker pasta in. Instead of getting another bowl out to make dirty, once I make the cheese sauce, I'll just dump that pasta into here, mix it up, and then I can put it back in there. Now to this, I'm gonna add a good amount of salt to help draw out the moisture and get these onions caramelizing. You can see how this is heaping over the top of this pan. You will see how little this cooks down to, almost nothing. Okay, delicious. I just swept the floor because I had lots of onion pieces on the floor, and that would drive me bananas if I was having to walk over them. So I think what I want to do now, because I have my top oven preheated, I might as well have something in that oven while it's preheated, and we can get other stuff done while the cakes are cooking. And I found 2 black velvet cakes that I thought were absolutely stunning and unique in their own way. And I decided I'm gonna go with this one. I have never made a black velvet cake before. Now I have used black cocoa powder before. If you've never used black cocoa powder, I cannot get this at my local grocery store. This is the cocoa powder that's used in making Oreos. It has that dark, distinct color and Oreo flavor. It is delicious. I can link this down below for you if you're interested in never trying it. I actually put like a teaspoon of this in my milk frother with half and half. I froth that and I put that in my coffee, and this adds like a level of chocolate Oreo sweetness that is just incredible. But this cake I think is gonna be stunning how ends up coming out. And I'm just reading it because I have not read the instructions at all for this. Now, I did read the instructions that it says to use 3 6-inch cake rounds. I don't have 6-inch cake rounds, I have 8-inch cake rounds. And in the notes, it says you can use 8-inch, just know it's gonna take longer to bake. And this one had really, really good reviews. Now I need to go downstairs and I need to get more oil because I'm almost out of oil up here. And I need to get vinegar because this recipe calls for vinegar because most black velvet cakes call for vinegar. Okay, so super straightforward ingredients. The only thing that's unique when it comes to this recipe is this black cocoa powder. I just went downstairs in my pantry to get some ingredients and I realize I am almost out of avocado oil. So for this cake, we're gonna have to use a little bit of olive oil, but that'll be fine. I need to place another Azure order coming up here for the holidays. If you're new, welcome. My name is Becky. I purchase a lot of my bulk baking goods from Azure, and this is a really good time to get baking goods before the holiday season comes up. So I do need to read this. Am I supposed to put these ingredients in here in a specific order? Nope. Add oil, buttermilk, vinegar, eggs in here. And then we'll add the dry ingredients. Super easy. It's a super, super straightforward cake. This recipe will be linked down below along with the other ones that I'm able to link for you down below. Some of these recipes I am making up, and if they turn out well, I can type them up and link them. And this recipe is written in both grams and cups, so if you're more comfortable weighing things out, or if you like measuring in cups, you could absolutely make this recipe. I'm gonna go ahead and weigh everything today. We need 235, we need 235 milliliters. I can't do that on here, or 1 cup of buttermilk. So this one, I guess I am needing to, it's almost exact by the time we get all that goodness that's in the bowl. I think we're gonna call that, 1 cup. Yeah, by the time I scrape all that in here, that is gonna be exactly 1 cup, or close enough to it. That's buttermilk. 2 large eggs. 1.5 cup vegetable or neutral flavored oil. So in my case, I'm gonna be using avocado and olive. If I had a light olive oil, that would be better, but this is what I'm using. I think it'll still taste good. The black cocoa powder has so much flavor that I don't think you'll taste the olive oil. And if you do, this is the olive oil. We did the olive oil blind taste test with Josh from Costco, and it ranked really high up there, so it tastes delicious. This is the same group of friends, like I said, that came over for the tomato themed dinner party. And our goal is going to be to try to get together once a month here at my house. We do get together more than that, just here at my house for dinner. I don't know if we're gonna be able to make that happen until after the holidays, after this party, because there's a lot of other holiday parties happening. We're gonna be doing a lot of cooking with my mom coming up here. So it might be like a New Year's before we do another big dinner party here. Not because there's not gonna be a lot of cooking with you and I, just there's gonna be a lot of other holiday cooking. This was some vanilla bean paste, used all that one. think I bought another one. I did, from Costco. That one was from Trader Joe's. I do want to make some of this stuff with you guys before the holidays. So that means I probably should do that sooner rather than later. That's our wet ingredients. I can zero that out. Now I'm going to weigh out the dry ingredients. And I am going to just put a fine mesh sieve over top, and this does not look as dark as the last brand I bought. I'm going to link for you the last brand I bought because it was much darker. I couldn't get it in time, so I actually ordered two because the normal brand I order was going to take like a week to get to me, and I needed it. And then when that one came, it wasn't enough. So I ordered another one that I could get overnight. Okay, this one looks a lot darker. So this one looks more like the brand I've bought in the past, which is, yeah, that looks like the right color. We need like 2 cups of this for the frosting. Zero that out. Now we're gonna add our flour. And I have my scale here so I can see how much I'm adding. And baking powder. And it already smells like an Oreo. I'm going to go through my ingredients just to make sure I added everything while I mix this. We have cocoa powder, flour, oh, sugar. Oh my goodness, that would have been bad. Wait, did I add the sugar already? I did not add the sugar. We need 300 grams of sugar. That's 302. We'll call that good enough. So that is cocoa powder, all-purpose flour, sugar, salt, baking soda, oil, butter, milk, vinegar, eggs, and vanilla. I'm just gonna weigh these to see if I've got them pretty even. 1,082 grams, 1,059 grams. Pretty close. We're gonna call that close enough. Timer's been set for our cakes. I just checked on the butternut squash. It's done. So we're gonna set this over here. It's got some nice color to it. Perfect. Trying to decide what I want to do next. Do we want to finish the candy apples? Do we want to finish the macaroni? Or do I want to go ahead and make our shortbread for our cookies? That's the thing, I guess, when you have so many things going on at once. I think what I'm going to do, or we could make the meatballs. I think what I'm gonna do is turn that lower oven off. It'll stay pretty warm, and then when I go to cook the meatballs, we'll just turn it back on. And let's go ahead and finish the macaroni, then we'll do the apples. Shortbread has to chill before I can shape them, so that's what's kind of tempting me to do the shortbread, but it can chill for up to 2 days, so we'll see. Let's go ahead and do the macaroni. So I'm gonna use the base of my, did I put that butter back in the fridge? Yes. The base for the macaroni, my caramelized onion macaroni, oh my goodness, I made that for the first time last year for Friendsgiving. I don't know if I'm gonna get to a Friendsgiving this year. This will be the first year in like 9 years if I don't get to it, but we'll just see. This holiday season is just so busy. But in here, I just added a 1/2 cup butter. I'm gonna use the cheese sauce base. We're gonna change up the cheese just a little bit, but I'm gonna use the roux ratio, the milk ratio from that recipe to adapt it to be a butternut squash recipe. While that butter melts, I do need to grate the cheese. Now, normally I use white cheddar when I make macaroni, but I am going to use orange sharp cheddar and a mixture of that with Gruyere because we're putting a butternut squash in this mac and cheese. So I thought it would be good to use an orange cheese. Just kind of cleaning up my mess a little bit. I could pull out my food processor to grate this cheese. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. I'm gonna add my flour. I believe it's a 1/2 cup, but I don't have that memorized. It is. I have 10 ounces of Gruyere. I think the Gruyere will go well with butternut squash. I've got 1 pound of cheddar cheese here, and I have a 1/2 pound of Monterey Jack cheese. I want the meltiness from the Monterey Jack. I don't think I'm gonna use all of this cheese. I think I'm gonna use, well, we'll see. I'll know by the time we're done how much cheese I end up using. I do want to use all of this Gruyere because I want that funkiness to counterbalance the sweetness. I think we need a total of 6 cups of cheese. I went ahead and I turned my stove off because this is going to take me just a second to grate all this cheese. This looks like enough cheese, I think. So I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna go work on the white sauce. Turn this back on. Oh, my stove/oven is giving me troubles, but it still works. I just have to know how to encourage it. Here you can see this is boiling away. It's cooked down quite a bit, but we have a long way to go with these. So I'm glad I started early with the onions. Let this cook for just a minute longer. I'm gonna get the milk out while this cooks. I had a thought. I don't have to mash all of this butternut squash or keep it all whole. I could do 1/2 and 1/2. So I'm gonna take 1/2 of this butternut squash now and put it in our pot. And this might kind of break up just a little bit, get incorporated nicely. And the other 1/2, I'll fold in and try to keep whole. I think that'll be good. And if these stay whole and don't puree, that's good too. No, I think that by the time we whisk in this milk and everything, we'll have some good texture from this. And I can encourage it to kind of puree a little bit. But we're still gonna have those caramelized bits from roasting it, which will add lots of yummy flavor. Now I'm gonna add milk and cream. Gonna add some pepper, salt. Now I'm just gonna let that thicken up, then we'll add our cheese. While this was cooking away and thickening up, I got some dishes done and I was reading over my candy apple recipe. This looks nice and thick. It already has a beautiful color to it from the butternut squash. Let's add some cheese, turn this into a cheese sauce, and then we can do some taste tests of it and adjust the seasonings as needed. I've turned the heat off. We need 6 cups of cheese total here. Let's see. How can I do this? I'm gonna go here. Let me grab out a bigger measuring utensil. Here's 4 cups here. There's 4. I want to put cheese on top too, so I might have to shred a little bit more. Okay. I'll be able to write all this down for you if this turns out well. There's 6 cups there total. Look at that. The smell of the Gruyere, that funkiness you get from it, plus the stringiness from the Monterey Jack, and the color and sharpness from the cheddar. Seems like a pretty good combination there. Oh yeah, look at that. With the sweetness from the butternut squash. That is incredible. You can't really taste the butternut squash, I would say. You just kind of get this like hint of sweetness. I probably could have done both or all 3 of my, I keep calling it butternut squash. This is honey nut squash. I think if I had done this again, I would have done 3. The 3 that I had, but that's okay. Now I'm going to fold this in because I don't want those pieces of butternut squash to get smashed. And this is a really saucy mac and cheese. That's why I like to use rigatoni, because it's got a big hole in it and that cheese sauce can work its way into the tube of the pasta. Ooh, that's hot. My timer just went off for my cake, so I checked the cake and I set another timer for 3 minutes. It's almost done. I'll add breadcrumbs to this tomorrow, I think. We'll see. Might just be a cheesy topping. I'm gonna taste this with the pasta and a piece of butternut squash. I didn't quite add all of it to that pan because I didn't think it would all fit. Those butternut squash pieces in there with the Gruyere cheese. Now that could go on any Thanksgiving table. That is so good. Wow. That is so good. I think my cakes are ready to come out of the oven right now. Chocolate cakes are always the hardest to know when they're done, or chocolate desserts, because it's hard to see if they've browned. But I did toothpick these and they felt really good. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take these out and we'll let these cool. And then we'll turn them out. They smell incredible. My house smells so good right now. I think I'm gonna go ahead and turn this oven off too. It's getting kind of warm in here. And I know we need the oven. What do we need the oven for? Oh, our meatballs, but I'll just turn that back on when we get to that. And just like that, we have one of our recipes basically completely done. And I thought it would be nice to go ahead and get another one of our recipes completely done. So let's go back to our main list here. I'm gonna go ahead and cross off. This pencil does not have any ink in it or lead. I'm gonna go ahead and cross off the butternut mac and cheese, black velvet cake. I did not do a breakdown. Sometimes I'll do breakdowns where I'm gonna say, this is the stuff I wanna get done on day 1. This is the stuff I wanna get done on day 2. I didn't do that today. I just printed off the recipes, which is fine. I'm not gonna decorate the cakes until tomorrow, so I won't make the frosting. You can easily make cake before even up to 2 days before if you wrap it really tightly, and up to 2 or 3 months before if you wrap it really tightly and put it in the freezer. But I like to make the frosting the day of. So we're gonna do the candy apples next. Wash thoroughly. Okay, we already have our baking dish, our lined candy dish. What is this? Not a candy dish, not a baking dish. We have a lined baking dish. We have our apples washed and they've got the sticks in them. We're gonna find sugar, corn syrup, water in a heavy bottom saucepan. Okay, and then I got some dye-free food coloring. I think the red, so it's not gonna be as bright as if I hadn't bought like the traditional food coloring. The red is, they use vegetable juice to get the red dye, probably like beet in a mixture of some other ones. So we're gonna use that. So it's not gonna be as deep of a red as it would be, but I did this before and it looked fine. It actually kind of gave it a little bit more of a spooky vibe because it was kind of more of a dark, mysterious red color. So we need, I'm making more candy probably than we need, but I want to have more so that it's easy to dip them. So that was sugar. This doesn't have very many ingredients in it. We do need to use corn syrup. Got half a cup of corn syrup. I bought so much corn syrup to make a ton of candies last year for Christmas. I printed off 10 no-bake candy recipes, and then I got pneumonia and I never got around to them. I've had the recipes printed in a drawer over there since last year, and I'm excited. This year, hopefully, as long as everything goes according to plan, we are gonna make some incredibly delicious Christmas candies and go through all the corn syrup that I bought a year ago. Good thing corn syrup does not go bad. I just added my corn syrup. I'm gonna add my water, and then I'm gonna get out my candy thermometer, and we need this to get to 300 degrees, and then we'll add our food coloring. This is supposed to be enough candy to make 12 apples. I love this candy thermometer. I think I got this 2 years ago. You all could tell me better than I could tell. My dogs were asking to go out. Okay, I'll let you out. And in just a second, they will ask to come back in. But I love this candy thermometer because from here, I can look and see we're at 226 degrees Fahrenheit. We need to get to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That's probably gonna take a few minutes. And then we just have to add food coloring, dip, and done. So super easy to make candy apples. So I'm just looking over my recipes. I'm looking at those cakes, and I was hoping for a really tall cake. I might make one more batch of that cake so that I can have a 4-tiered cake, because I kind of want it to be tall and impressive because we're gonna put bats on the top, and I think that would be cute if it was a little taller. So we'll see how I feel about that. We're not decorating that till tomorrow, so I can do that when we get back from swim lessons if I decide to do that. So let me read the recipe for the shortbread cookie fingers we're gonna be making. I made these 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and they were so cute. So when I was putting this menu together, I thought we've got to make these because I haven't made them since. And I do need softened butter. So this dough, if I don't end up shaping and baking these today, I can shape and bake them tomorrow, but we do need to make this dough and have it sit. So I'm at 230. Usually once it gets to about 230, that's when it takes a little bit more time to get up to your final temperature. So let me go get my butter out, and I'm gonna get this softening in the microwave. But you can see they are kind of tall, but not crazy tall. So I might just make another batch of that because that was so easy. This I'm just letting cool down. This is our mac and cheese. I'm gonna cover this, pop this in the fridge, and then I'll bake it, and it'll get ooey gooey and bubbly for tomorrow. I washed out some of my baking dishes we used for the cake so I could make our cookies in it. We are at 234, so I'm gonna get some of the ingredients for the cookies in here while that cooks. Or at least I'll kind of get everything set up. No need to stand around and watch sugar boil. When it gets closer to the temperature, I will. So now we need 1 cup powdered sugar. Problem is, a lot of my measuring devices are wet. In a large mixing bowl, beat together butter and powdered sugar. And granulated sugar if using. Granulated sugar, highly recommended if you'd like a regularly sweet cookie. Huh. It's interesting that it recommends it. It just doesn't say to do it. We'll add the granulated sugar. 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. These are cookies, so I do want them to be sweet, not just cute. These are really cute though too. We're at 240 on our temperature. This might take a second because I didn't soften it super, super soft. That looks light and fluffy to me. Now we're gonna add our egg and our 2 extracts. The recipe calls for both vanilla and almond, which I love almond extract. Vanilla, almond. Our temperature is 256 right now. Now this recipe does not call for any leavening agents because it's more of a shortbread style cookie. But we do need to add, with our flour, we need to add salt. We're not even at 290 yet, so we're gonna get this cookie dough completely done in the time it takes for our sugar to get up to temperature. We are at temperature. I'm turning the stove off and I'm gonna add quite a bit of our food coloring. I think I'm gonna add all of it. I'm pretty sure I did that last time. I'm gonna let my dogs in because they're barking like crazy. All right, dogs are back inside. Mix this in carefully because this is so hot, dangerously hot. And I'm just gonna dip this right here so I'm not moving this hot sugar around my kitchen. And the heat from the stove, even though I have the stove off, is gonna keep this sugar pliable enough for me to dip all these before it hardens in the pan. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I chilled these before. My apples, like I put them in the freezer to keep the candy from running off. But now I can't remember. I'm trying to have the candy harden just a little bit before I set it down on the parchment. It's so pretty because it has like air bubbles in it. Caramelized onions are burning away over here while I'm not paying attention to them. I'm glad I made the full amount of this candy, even though I'm not dipping the full amount, because it makes it really easy to dip. The onions are still caramelizing away. I had to transfer them to a different pan because when I was dipping my candy apples, which turned out perfect, I burnt my pan. No big deal, I'm just scrubbing it, I'm soaking it. I boiled it on the stove with some baking soda and water, and now it's just soaking, and I'm gonna scrub that. I'm gonna make the meatballs in that. I got my dishwasher started. I've got our cakes cooling here. I took the compost stuff to the chickens. I can cover that in just a minute. It is now cool enough, and I made another round of cakes going in the oven because I just don't think I'm gonna get that height I want from just 2 layers. I also got the counters clean and my cookie dough chilling. So I just pressed this cookie dough together in this piece of parchment paper. I folded it up. It looks beautiful. It smells perfect. And I am going to pop this in the fridge. So I thought what we should do, now that the kitchen is kind of clean, I have a hard time focusing when my kitchen explodes like it had just done. So let's see. Cake is done. I am going to make the cake portion from one recipe, and then I'm going to make the frosting from another recipe, because one of the recipes, the one that I made the cake, calls for shortening and butter, and the other recipe calls for the frosting, cream cheese and butter. And I think that just sounds better, so we're going to do that. Pomegranate ginger punch I'm going to make tomorrow. That's going to take just a couple minutes. Candy apples are done. I do need to go ahead and get them decorated for how I'm going to put them on the table. See, this is what I'm thinking for this menu. I don't think I mentioned this yet. The plates, I got some new plates for this dinner that are black. And I thought it would be cool for the macaroni and cheese to be orange and the bread to be orange and the salad to be bright green. I thought it would pop really well off a black plate. So the bread, the savory pumpkin bread with cheese, I'm not gonna make that until tonight because I don't need it to ferment that long if I mix it up right now. Now, one thing I did not add, black velvet cake. I'm gonna go ahead and just cross that off even though we're gonna decorate it tomorrow. Shortbread, I'm crossing that off. I'll redo this and write a list of what I need to do tomorrow, but it feels good to cross stuff off. That's one downside of not writing like a list of things I wanted to do today. French onion meatballs are half done. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these off. These look pretty brown and beautiful now. I'm glad I didn't ruin those. I caught them at a good time. So one thing I did not put on this list is I did not put like decorating the table, setting up the table, doing the flower arrangements. We have to run to the grocery store for something after swim lessons tonight. So what I think I want to do is start working on those flower arrangements because I only bought 3, well, I'll show you, 3 different types of flowers. I mean, I guess this technically isn't flowers. These are like twigs, but I have red roses. I have these cool grass looking things, and then I have my pumpkins. And I can't decide if I want to do, these are called black bear pumpkins or black teddy bear pumpkins. I think you can actually tell that they're, when you look at them next to a black plate, they are green, but I'm thinking I like the idea of a pop of color. I think this would be really pretty with the black that we're gonna have on the table and the bright red roses. So I got 3 of these pumpkins. I also bought some flower foam, which I've never worked with before. And I've seen this where people have, I'm just throwing stuff all over, used pumpkins as vases, but I feel like usually they use fake pumpkins, I think. So let's see if I can do this safely. And if I need some more greenery or some more flowers, this would be a good time to start this project because we have to run and get something at the store anyway after swim lessons. Oop. And then after these are done being vases, I can give these to the chickens. I just had the thought, maybe I should have done this tomorrow. I think these pumpkins will be okay, especially if I put them in the fridge. Yeah, because a jack-o'-lantern's usually okay for a couple days, right? Face number 1. Face number 2. Ooh. These are wanting to float up, so I'm just taking toothpicks and stabbing them into the pumpkin, making sure I'm not poking all the way through the pumpkin. So I don't want it to create a leak out the back end. This could be super cute. And I was just thinking, I wonder if I could somehow I don't know, attach this to the side. We'll see. Might not be necessary. I'm just going to tell you now, I think this turns out absolutely adorable and cute. And at this point, I have no idea what it's going to turn out and if it's even going to work. But I can tell you from the future, this I think turned out even better than I had imagined. So I did go ahead and add the flower food that the roses came with. And I am going to just start cutting the stems down and poking them into this flower foam. This is the first time I've ever used flower foam and it works really well. It makes sense, or florist foam. I'm not sure what it's called, but it makes sense why it's so popular in the flower arranging community. I have seen where people also use like chicken wire and they ball chicken wire up and use that. I would like to try that sometime, but this just seemed easier. I just bought these little rounds on Amazon, but I actually did stop in Dollar Tree for the plastic cellophane that I end up attempting. You're going to see in just a little bit how I end up wrapping the candy apples, and they had the little flower foams there as well. And so that's just good to know that you can pick that up there. So I have 2 different shaped pumpkins, or 2 different size pumpkins. They look pretty similar, but they are a little bit different size. And I'm just cutting these roses, and it's right about here that I realized I did not buy enough roses. I totally underestimated how many roses it would take to fill up these little pots. So at this point, you can see the lighting's changed. It is after we have already gone into town. We had swim lessons. I did prep a dinner that I was going to make on this night, but you could probably tell I was getting a little bit tired. So we ended up getting pho for dinner, and it was so good. It hit the spot. It was warm and comforting. And we do end up making what I prepped on this night on a different night. So that time was not wasted. But we did also stop at the store to pick up a few more roses. And you can see I did stick these kind of wild, crazy looking grasses in the pot as well. And I thought those were kind of cool. And then I went back and forth. Originally, am I just going to put flowers in these and put the grasses and these little twiggy things? Or do I want the grasses, the twiggy things, and the roses? And ultimately, I decided that I wanted these funky grasses and these twiggy things. This is unlike any flower arrangement I have ever made. The only inspiration I'm taking from this is I have seen flower arrangements in pumpkins before, but when it comes to these little twiggy things and grasses, this was just what my local grocery store had at the time, and that's kind of what I went with. But for the future, I now know it takes a lot of roses. Basically, it took a dozen roses to fill one of these pumpkins. These pumpkins are not very big, but I wanted a nice full lick. So this is what they're looking like sitting on my table. And after eating dinner and kind of getting a second wind, I was originally thinking when we went down into town, when I got back, I was like, I'm not going to do anything in the kitchen anymore. I wasn't even going to do the flower arrangements. But then I got the roses and I was feeling inspired. And then when I was in the kitchen, it was kind of cozy in there. And I was like, I am going to just keep puttering and puttering. And we end up getting a lot done before I actually go to bed. So here are our candy apples. And this is how I was originally thinking I would put these on the table, because I was thinking these were going to be, or they were, I'm talking to you from the future. These are party favors. I'm going to give these to my friends to take home. And so I thought it would be nice if they were wrapped up sitting on the table. But then I was looking at it and I was like, I don't know. When I was at the Dollar Tree to buy this, what is it, cellophane? They didn't have any black ribbon. I really wanted to do a big black ribbon bow on it. That's what I had done when I had made these last year. They only had this gold ribbon. So I'm going back and forth. I'm like, do I wrap them all? Do I not wrap them? What do I like to look on the table better? And then I decided ultimately I would decide the following day. And I'm glad I do end up not wrapping all of them, because the sugar ends up sticking to the plastic. So I don't end up wrapping them, and that was actually a good choice. I'm glad I didn't wrap them. Now here we are going to make our pumpkin bread. Now this is something I would have needed to do even if I was tired. I needed to get the pumpkin bread made up because I did want this to sit. And this is something I'm totally making up. So I had pumpkin in my freezer that I had cooked down from the pumpkins I grew in my 2024's garden. And for about an hour, I had the pumpkin thawed sitting in a colander. And I measured out the liquid from that, and I used the amount of liquid I would need for my no-knead bread. I didn't use water. I substituted the pumpkin water. And then I added a cup of pumpkin puree. I added the flour. I added about a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I added salt, and I'm mixing this. Normally this is a no-knead recipe, but I did get in there and kneaded it a little bit more. I thought that with the pumpkin addition, I was adding more moisture. I did add a little bit more flour. I cannot tell you exact measurements because I was just in there adding stuff. And I'm going to let that sit, and hopefully, I'm hoping that it turns out. And again, I'll just tell you right now, from the future, I know it turns out really, really good. And I would definitely make it again. I thought it was a winner. Everyone enjoyed it. The only thing is, I will talk to you about, there's one tweak I would make, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually go to make the pumpkin bread. Here you can see I'm starting on the meatballs. This was another thing. Josh was helping me with the dishes. He was unloading the dishwasher at this point, and I was just puttering around in the kitchen, and I thought I could go ahead and get the meatball mixture made up. I do pretty closely follow the meatball mixture recipe, but not really, that I'm going to link for you, the one that I got inspired by. I actually, now that I think about it, I did not follow the recipe. I basically took breadcrumbs that I had in my freezer with some Parmesan cheese. I put 2 eggs in there with the breadcrumbs. I put some milk in there to hydrate the breadcrumbs. I added 2 eggs, salt, and pepper. I mixed it up, and I thought that this would just sit in the fridge overnight, and I would be able to make the meatballs the following day. So this mixture is just going into the fridge, and we will finish this off tomorrow. I also pulled out butter and cream cheese for the frosting for the following day. And then throughout this day, I had made some really cute ice cubes, and this is going to be for the mocktail and cocktail. And because these froze, I went ahead and popped those out. I get those into just a deli container to go in the freezer, and then I'm going to fill this tray back up with more water so we can make some more ice. Good morning. After I kind of got the flour arrangements done and I made the meatballs, I didn't actually form the meatballs, but I made the filling, and what else did we do? We made the dough. Josh came in here and did a big deep clean on the kitchen for me. He got the coffee pot ready, so we've got hot coffee there. I've steamed my milk, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab my recipes. We're gonna bake up the bread, we're gonna frost the cake, and we're just gonna keep going. First thing is let's get some light on. So I am probably the most morning person in my family, and I have not been as much of a morning person since being pregnant, but I know that as soon as I have this baby, I'm assuming her and I are going to be morning people together, which will be kind of fun. But at this point, I am the first person up in my family, so I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to try to get as much done as I can. You and I are going to work throughout different pockets of time this morning and mid-afternoon to kind of pull this dinner party together. This was way less labor intensive of a menu than the tomato themed dinner party. So like I mentioned before, at the very beginning, these are the same friends that came over for the tomato themed dinner party. And we are going to try to have this be a monthly thing if we can. Probably that's not going to happen throughout the next 2 months just because Thanksgiving and Christmas can be crazy. We have lots of family stuff, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get to our monthly themed dinner parties until after, probably, well, in January, then I'll have potentially a newborn. We'll see. But we've been trying to be much more intentional about getting together, and I love hosting them. So I guess we'll see. But at this point, they're coming over tonight, and I picked a much less labor intensive menu than the menu that I had done last time they came. You can see here, I've got my pumpkin bread. I have my Dutch oven in the oven preheating. I've just shaped my pumpkin loaf like I would normally my no-knead loaf, but I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to put some twine around this loaf so that when it rises, it is going to create those signature pumpkin grooves. I have done this before where I've made a pumpkin shaped loaf, but I have never flavored it pumpkin. Last time it was just a plain all-purpose flour and salt and water and yeast recipe, and the flavor on this is so fantastic. Now, the one thing I said I was going to mention that I would have changed is I should have let this rise for probably an hour to an hour and a half after shaping it instead of my normal 30 minutes. Because there is cheese and pumpkin in it, it needs a little extra rise time. It could have used for a little bit longer proof, but it still tasted great, even though it could have had a little bit more lift to it, and the look is perfect. So at this point, I'm going to unload the dishwasher because I'm going to be making lots of dishes this morning, and it'll be nice to have an area to put those dirty dishes in. I'm going to get my cakes, my cheese, my cream cheese, my butter, my cocoa, my mixer. I've got some strawberry raspberry jam. The recipe that I'm following for the frosting is the first black velvet cake recipe I saw, and that's kind of what inspired this entire dinner. My goal for this dinner was for it to be kind of like moody, romantic, October-y theme, but not like scary. And so I end up taking inspiration from the recipe that I get the frosting recipe from, and the other black velvet cake recipe that I'm going to link for you that I actually made the cake portion from. And I kind of mixed those two together, and then I kind of went on my own when it came to like the tablescape you're going to see. And I just think it turned out perfect. It was kind of like a spooky romantic or moody romantic, but not super spooky. You're going to see. So here for the cream cheese frosting, we've got butter and cream cheese creamed together. I'm going to sift the cocoa powder and the powdered sugar together with a little bit of salt. And this does make a little bit of a mess because I am doubling this recipe, because you can see I doubled the cake. I wanted a big, tall, dramatic cake, so I needed to double the frosting, and we're going to fill it with the strawberry raspberry jam. That's where I was going with this. The recipe said to make your own blackberry jam, but I have homemade raspberry jam, and I thought red with the black, just like the red and the black on the table with the cake, would be really beautiful. So instead of making up a new jam, I'm just going to use some jam I already had on hand. And when I first started making this frosting, I thought, with all that powdered sugar, there's no way we're going to get a nice black color. But just a little bit of mixing and this frosting is so beautiful. My friends, when they came over, they thought I added a ton of black food coloring. There's no black food coloring in this. It is just that black cocoa that is getting the color of this cake and the color of this frosting. I'm so blown away by how rich of that cocoa powder just really makes a beautiful dark frosting. So here's my pumpkin bread. I'm going to score it. I'm going to get this in the oven. I only let this rise for probably 30 to 40 minutes. I should have let it do a second rise for probably an hour and a half. It looks beautiful when it comes out of the oven, but when I cut into it, I can tell that it was a little underproofed. No one noticed, I don't think. I noticed. So I'm just, if you attempt to do a loaf with a ton of pumpkin in it and Parmesan cheese, just know your rise time might be a little bit longer. So here we're just going to start decorating this cake. My sister was on the phone with me. She was on a long road trip, and so we were talking the whole time as I was decorating this cake, and it was kind of fun. I was kind of talking her through like what my plans were, what the menu was. She was telling me what she was up to, and I was having a little bit of a hard time. I need to invest in some piping bags. I used obviously that little Ziploc bag. My Ziploc bags kept poking holes kept springing in my little Ziploc bags. They were not freezer bags. They were just, snack bags or whatever. Maybe if I had used a freezer bag, I didn't have any, then it wouldn't have poked holes, but I was just trying to use what I have. I did end up getting out a piping bag that I have that was like a silicone one that you can wash and reuse, but that one kept springing, like I had two of them, and it sprung a hole twice. So maybe I should invest in like a canvas piping bag, but then if I did something like this with this cocoa, I'm sure it would stain the canvas bag. I don't know. It ended up working out. This cake turns out, I think, stunning. You can see here, I just do a little ring of frosting around the edge, basically just trying to make a little dam so that I can add my strawberry, raspberry filling. And I did cut the tops off the cakes so that they would be level. This is the first time I'm doing a 4-tiered cake, and I knew that it would be really important that each layer was level, because if I started out using wonky shaped cakes, the taller it got, the more pronounced it would become a problem. And my wall ovens are not level. So there's always a high spot. And then, anytime you bake something, I think that, they never bake totally level. And one thing I did know that I needed when making a cake this tall were some supports and skewers. So I put 4, those are just, what are those called? Kebab skewers. I probably should have put 5 because even with those 4, it does want to lean a little bit. And there was once throughout the day where I ended up like kind of pushing the cake back level again. I think what professional cake decorators use, like the boba straw, the really thick boba straws. I'm not exactly sure, but I just know that in the future, if I'm going to do a 4-tiered layer cake, I should at least do probably 5 skewers, or get something that was a little bit thicker than just a bamboo skewer. So here I've put the frosting on the top. I did end up pulling out a freezer bag that was a Costco freezer bag. I had already messed with 2 or 3 other piping bags, and they were giving me tons of trouble. And so I finally just pulled out the Costco freezer bags, which if you've used those before, they are not like a Ziploc brand freezer bag. They're not just a square. And so they're really hard to use when you want to pipe something because they have the bottom that lays flat. And it ended up working better than my piping bags that kept springing holes. But here, my goal is to try to get a really smooth frosting look. And this does take me a little bit of time, but just a little bit of time and work, it ends up turning out really nice. You can see the cake is kind of like moving around a little bit. And this is what I'm thinking, I probably should have put 1 or 2 more skewers in there, but it ends up working out fine. My family sampled this cake this morning. At this point, my whole family's up, and they were able to sample the parts that I had cut off to make the cakes level. and they were a huge hit. This frosting tastes amazing. There's something really yummy about this black cocoa. You've probably had it and not known it. If you've ever eaten an Oreo, Oreos are made with this type of cocoa. It's processed different than your traditional like Dutch processed cocoa, and that's why the color is different. And it has a very distinct flavor. It tastes like Oreos. Now this cake recipe was delicious. Here you can see I'm taking the pumpkin bread out. I baked this for about 35 minutes with the lid on, and then I took the lid off, and then I baked it for another about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to pull that out of the oven and let that cool. But what I was saying about this cake recipe is really, really good. But I think next time I make a black velvet cake, I want to use my mom's chocolate cake recipe because that's my favorite chocolate cake recipe. I think I like that recipe so much because it uses brown sugar instead of white sugar. So it has this really rich, delicious cake flavor, chocolate cake flavor. But I want to substitute the cocoa powder, this cocoa powder for the regular Dutch processed cocoa powder, and see how that turns out. Because I think that would work no problem. I think you can substitute the types of cocoa powder one for one. I think they act the same. They just will give you a different flavor and a different appearance, obviously. So here I have piped a little piping around the bottom edge. That's something I don't normally do, but I wanted to kind of clean up that edge. And then I took a ton of blackberries and I started kind of playing around with decorating the top of the cake with blackberries. And I was going to add these bats, but then that wasn't really the look I was going for. So I decided not to add the bats, and I decided to add even more blackberries and kind of pile up the blackberries onto this cake. And how I'm getting these blackberries to stick onto the cake is I am just using a little bit of frosting, and that worked perfect. So I was going to leave it just like this, but I thought it was lacking something. So I just left it there. I didn't want to add the bats. I knew it needed something, but I didn't know what it needed. So we're going to switch focus and we are going to get the butter prepped. This is a little something I've wanted to do for probably a year and a half or 2 years. I don't know. Since I've been having dinner parties, I thought it would be fun for each individual person to have their own pat of butter, but I had never got around to doing it until today, and this was so fun, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. I know Josh loved having his own little butter by his plate, and so I'm probably going to do this more and more. I have these little dishes. These are actually soy sauce dishes for sushi, and they work perfect for butter. I just took my 1 tablespoon cookie scoop and I scooped 1 tablespoon of butter into each dish, and then I sprinkled some really yummy flaky salt on the top. I'm going to let these sit at room temperature, and these are going to be plated on the table when I set the table. And it was so fun, and it was everything I wanted, and I will be doing that again. So we're back to the cake. I had bought these edible rose petals, and I thought, this is what I want to add to this cake. It needs a pop of red. The table is kind of red with the roses, and there's going to be quite a few pops of black on the table. So we went ahead and added these edible roses to this black velvet cake, and I think that's exactly what it needed. So now it is a little bit later in the day. I have yet to get ready for the day, but I thought I had a pocket of time right now in this morning time to get the main dish made up. And we're not going to finish cooking this dish. We're going to get it, well, we end up cooking the meatballs all the way through. I just shaped the meatballs, the ones that we had prepped the night before, and I'm going to brown them on each side. And we're going to get these cooked through, and then we're going to make our French onion sauce to go along with it. So the recipe for the meatballs was quite a bit different than what I did, and I was just using this recipe that I'm linking for you as an inspiration recipe, because this sauce that I end up making is quite a bit different too, and it ended up turning out so good. There were 4 meatballs left when we were all done with dinner, and I ended up packaging those up and gifting those to my friend's husband because he had to work the next day, and so he was able to take the 4 leftover meatballs and a bunch of other stuff from this dinner to take to lunch the next day, and that was great. So what I'm doing to make this sauce is I added a little bit of butter to the pan drippings, and then I added some flour, and I made a little bit of a roux, and then I'm going to use this is actually beef broth. I am completely out of chicken broth in my house, if you can believe it. So I'm going to use beef broth, and I'm going to scrape up any brown bits with the beef broth. I'm going to loosen up that roux with the beef broth, and then I'm going to season this sauce with some thyme, parsley, salt and pepper, and then I realize at this point, oh gosh, I forgot to add the garlic. I should have added the garlic when I was sauteing the butter, but I forgot, and so I thought, you know what, we're going to go ahead and add that now. We'll let that dissolve. It'll cook. We're going to end up finishing this in the oven, so the raw garlic flavor would have plenty of time to cook out. I added about a cup of cream because I wanted this to be a creamy sauce, and then I end up adding about half of the caramelized onions that we made the day before. I tasted it. It needed a little bit more salt. It needed a little bit more pepper. And the rest of those caramelized onions, I went ahead and I put in the freezer, and I'll use those for something else. So anytime you make caramelized onions, if you want to go through the effort of making them, you can make more than you need, and they freeze and thaw beautifully. I love having caramelized onions in my freezer because you saw it took probably an hour and a half to caramelize that amount of onions. And I don't always want to caramelize onions when I need caramelized onions. Say if we're going to have like a quick hamburger dinner, I'm probably not going to take the time to caramelize onions, but if I have them in the freezer, they thaw incredibly quickly, especially if you put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them thin. You can run them under some water and they're thawed in less than a minute. So that's what I like to do, is have caramelized onions on hand when I can. So here I am now taking the twine off this pumpkin bread, and I'm adding my little cinnamon stick, and our pumpkin loaf is done. Basically, when I added that cinnamon stick, I knew I should have proofed that loaf a little bit. I could tell that the density was a little bit denser than I would like. But again, I think I'm the only one that noticed. Literally all the bread got eaten, and there was only 6 people at this dinner party. Well, some of it my friend's husband took home with him because he was going to have that for lunch the next day. But most of it all got gobbled up, and then he took the leftovers. So even though it wasn't 100% perfect, it was still incredibly delicious. So here you can kind of see this like moody, romantic theme that I'm going for with this tablescape. This is unlike anything I've ever done before, and I had a lot of fun. It really stretched my creativity to do something like this, because if you've seen any of the other tables I've done, this is not like any of the other tables I've done. I got some black candlesticks, some black candles, and I got that black lace table runner, and I just wanted this to be kind of moody, romantic, and I think it turned out really well. So one thing, whenever I buy new table decor stuff, I try to think of investing in pieces that don't scream one specific holiday where then I'm like tied into that. I don't own any black candlesticks, and so I was super happy with that purchase, because there's many times I've set a table and wanted a black candlestick, but like the black napkins I have, those are ones I've had for a long time, and I've used those over and over. And I really wanted black plates for this because this is what I wanted. I wanted the black to really pop against the candy apple, or I guess I should probably rephrase that. I wanted the candy apple to pop against the black, and I just think that that turned out really well. And then these gold silverware I thought really tied in well as well, and that silverware you've seen me use so many times. So I'm going to put wine glasses on the table, and I'm also going to put water glasses on the table. My friend's husband, who is bringing the cocktail, He also likes to bring a bottle of wine to kind of pair with the menu. And so even though not everyone is going to be drinking wine, I like the table to be symmetrical and everything to match. So I will put a wine glass at each place setting and a water glass at each place setting as well. And here you can really see these pumpkins with the flowers, and I just think that's so cute. The pumpkins held up really well. One of my friends who was there on this night, she took one of the flower arrangements home with her, and then I had the other one, and the pumpkin held up for about 6 days. It is 3:30. I have the table set, and I think it turned out so beautiful. It is definitely unlike anything I've ever done before. I've always wanted to do the little individual butter, and I just think that turned out so cute. So I'm super happy to see what this is gonna look like lit up. Josh is gonna take care of that table for me in just a little bit. I went ahead and I sat out where I'm gonna make our little mocktail. So I just texted my friend and I said, I have ice for, her husband's gonna bring stuff to make a cocktail, but I wanted there to be something non-alcoholic as well. They're also gonna bring wine. And I got this as a Christmas gift, I think 9 years ago. This is an ice bucket. I've never used it. I've just used it as kind of table decor on my bar cart, but I made some ice. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll mix up my ginger pomegranate drink in here. This tray and this little cocktail serving set is a gift from my mother-in-law. She thrifted it. And I always told her how much I absolutely loved it. She had it up in her, she has like a china cabinet, and she always said that one day when she passed, she would give it to me. My mother-in-law is very, very young, so it was gonna be a while, but she randomly just texted me one day and said, hey, do you want it now? And I said, yes, I would love it. So I thought, because I just got that from her, we were gonna go ahead and use that today for the mocktail. But what I need to do, and I did get ready for the day, this is what I'm gonna wear tonight. It's super casual. My friends know that when they come over to my house, they can dress up if they want, or they can be super casual and comfy. But we need to make the salad. I didn't realize that one of the apples that I bought that I used for my extra candy apple was for the salad. So I did have to send Josh to the store today to grab that. And I think I'm gonna make for this salad, we need salt and pepper. And I'm looking for apple cider vinegar. I think I need to do a deep clean on all my drawers and cupboards, and it's a project for sometime soon, hopefully, but not today. Do I not have apple cider vinegar? I need some honey too, because we're gonna add honey. We're gonna make an apple cider vinaigrette. I know I need to organize in there because I see that I have 3 things of red wine vinegar. I don't need 3 bottles of red wine vinegar in there. I'm also super happy with how the cake turned out. I wasn't exactly sure what it was gonna turn out like, but I love it. It is leaning just a little bit, but I won't tell if you won't. Our pumpkin bread looks fantastic as well. It smells incredible, and I love that it's orange. I have made this shape before, but this is the first time I've flavored it pumpkin, and it looks fantastic, and I cannot wait to cut into it. I also did pull out my mac and cheese. My meatballs are in the fridge, but the mac and cheese is so cold. I'm gonna give them, my friends are coming over at 5:30. It's 3:19 right now, and I don't need that much mustard. I'm gonna make a Dijon apple cider honey mustard apple fennel salad with pecorino romano, arugula, cranberries if I have them, or cherries, whatever dried fruit I have, and pistachios. I'm making this up. I did find a recipe that I'm being inspired by, but we're just gonna make this up. Oh, I forgot to get olive oil. That's probably too much mustard. I don't want it to be like super mustardy flavor. So back to what I was saying, it's 3:20. I always tell Josh, apologies if I interrupt, because I interrupt myself. My family, that's how we communicate. We talk loud and we talk over each other, and it's so funny. I never even realized how my family communicates and my friends until I met Josh, because his family is very much one person talks at a time. And I don't think there's one right or wrong way. I just he's learned from me and I've learned from him how it's okay to have different communication styles. So I do try not to interrupt him, but I do tell him I interrupt myself all the time. So I apologize about that. And it's 3:20. My friends are going to be here at 5:30. This is what I was saying. This is going to already take probably an hour and 20 minutes because it's so cold. So I just pulled it out of the refrigerator just to come up a little bit to room temperature. It's so interesting when you know, two families combine and you learn things about your family, and you can sit back and watch my two brother-in-laws, my sister's husbands, all talk about how my family is really good at talking loudly and interrupting each other, and we don't even notice. It's so funny. You sit back and watch the conversation after learning this. It's like, oh yeah, and no one's offended by it. So it's just different communication styles. So we've got Dijon mustard, probably a tablespoon of honey. I don't want to make too much. I just want to make enough for this salad. A little bit of apple cider vinegar. And I've got a good quality olive oil here. When you're making salad dressings, definitely make sure you use an olive oil you like the taste of. The mustard and honey will help emulsify this. I bought this olive oil almost a year ago, and I only have about this much left. So I'm trying to go through it before we hit the year point, just so it's nice and fresh. Okay. It's probably enough right there. I'm gonna season this with some salt. I've never used fennel before. Pepper. That's pretty peppery, but I think that will balance out the flavors of the sweetness that we're gonna get from the honey and the apple. Oh, that's delicious. I think it could use a little bit more zing. Okay. That's what it needed. So I'm gonna set these ingredients over here. I put in a crunchy salt, and it hasn't fully dissolved yet. And I just got a bite of that, and that is so good. So what I'm gonna do, the counters have been cleaned, the floors have been cleaned, and so I'm trying not to make a mess right now. When I'm done making the salad, I'm gonna unload the dishwasher so that it is unloaded, and we can just do dishes right after dinner, or I should say Josh will do the dishes right after dinner. Not sure where my vegetable peeler is, so I'm just gonna peel this apple by hand. And I'm going to slice this apple with my mandolin because I want it super thinly sliced, and then I'm going to toss it in the salad dressing so that it doesn't turn brown on me. And then I won't add the arugula to this until right before we eat. Feta, I think, would be really good in this, but one of my friends that's coming over does not like feta. So I thought pecorino, that the bite you're gonna get from pecorino would be really good in this as well. Let's see. This was a gift, and I really do like it. But I respect it, so I'm gonna use my guard. I've watched too many episodes of shows where people cut themselves on these things. I'm gonna start with one apple. Now, I'm not exactly sure what to do with this fennel. I think I'm gonna take these outer leaves off because they've kind of browned a little bit. Ooh, it smells good. And I wanna have the apple and the fennel about the same thickness, so that's why I thought a mandolin would be a good choice for this. And this actually has a good handle to hold on to. There we go. Oh, that smells really good. If you don't like licorice though, you will not like that, I don't think. But I think with the sweet apple and the pepperiness of the arugula, the sweetness of the cranberries we're gonna add, that's gonna be really good. Now I'm just mixing this together. I don't want any of these vegetables to turn brown while they sit in the fridge for a little bit. Oop, there's an apple seed in there, I don't want that. Let's see if I can find my cranberries. Pretty sure I have some. I'm gonna cover that in plastic wrap, and then I'm just gonna set this out, and this will be our salad with our arugula, and I'm gonna pop that in the fridge. Now you may remember that I prepped some cookie dough to make some cute little finger cookies. Well, our afternoon ended up becoming a little bit more exciting. Our dogs decided that it would be fun to go on a little adventure, and then we had a contractor come over because we're gonna have to do a little bit of configuration to make room for this baby girl that's coming in January. So I decided just to set the table after some of that commotion happened, and then relax for a little bit and shower and get ready, clean up, and not worry about those cookies. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that cookie dough in the freezer, and that's just a really good shortbread cookie dough, and I will pull it out at some point. I wanna make some cookies, maybe some Christmas cookies or some fall cookies, or I don't know exactly what we're gonna do with that cookie dough yet, or maybe I will still turn them into the little fingers, but I will wait and do that when life is was a little less hectic than it was this afternoon. Now it's very relaxed and chill. I just wanna get this dishwasher unloaded so that when dishes are basically ready to come out of, or when we're done with tonight's dinner and my friends leave, we can just put dishes directly back into the dishwasher. Now when my dogs go on an adventure, they have a favorite place they like to go, so we can always get to them, but it was pouring out and they like to go visit our neighbor's cow field. So not only were they in a cow field, it was pouring and it was muddy and it was a whole thing. So yeah, that was an adventurous afternoon, getting them cleaned up and all that stuff. Wow, this is quite the... So basically what I'm gonna do now, kitchen's clean. I'm just gonna unload the dishwasher, load it with these little bit of dishes. All of our food is done. Mac and cheese needs to go into the oven. Meatballs need to go into the oven. Bread is already done. This is a way less labor intensive meal when my friends are actually here than the last meal when I had them over, which was the tomato themed dinner party. Josh spent a lot of time working on dishes after that dinner party. There's not gonna be near as many dishes this time. It's gonna be a nice, relaxing afternoon. I've got a couple games prepped if we wanna play games. Last time they were here, we sat outside until 11:30. We did not get to games, we just talked. But this time, we might go into the living room and play some games. So I'm just gonna get this unloaded and I'll see you back when I start putting stuff in the ovens. Josh just came in here and he said my pumpkin bread is really, really cute. It is now 4:24. I put the mac and cheese in the oven at 350. I sliced up some of this. This was called a Dracula orange. It's like a blood orange mixed with a navel orange. So good. I had a sample of it. I cut some slices and added it into here. So I'm gonna make some just ginger pomegranate punch, just a little bit. And I got those ingredients and I put them in that fridge. And now I'm gonna sit and eat the rest of this orange as a little snack while I wait for my friends to get here. About an hour and 15 minutes before my friends arrived, I added the mac and cheese, and then about 30 minutes before they arrived, I added the meatballs to the oven to start warming through. Both of those items were completely cooked. They just needed to be warmed through. The mac and cheese was pretty cold and pretty dense, so I knew that would take at least an hour and 15 minutes. Now I'm going to make up my punch because my friends are literally on their way, and my punch is just 1 part pomegranate juice to 1 part ginger beer. Super easy, delicious, and then I'm going to get my ice cubes in my ice tray. Never used it before, and I love it. So here, my friends are over. I have everything ready to go. This is the cocktail that my friend's husband made. He made a batch cocktail. It was some sort of old-fashioned. This is the mocktail dished up with the ice cube. And here, my meatballs are done, so I put those in a different oven on keep warm. My mac and cheese wasn't quite done yet. I wanted to take the foil off, and I wanted that to get really bubbly and crusty on the top. I lit the candles, and so this is what the table looks like with the candles lit. I, again, am so happy with how it turned out. I do end up packaging up their little candy apples for them to take home after, but I wanted it just to look like that when they got here, and I thought that was so cute. The very last thing I need to do is put the finishing touches on this salad. This salad is probably one of my new favorite salads. Let me tell you, the crunchiness and the sweetness of the apple and the cranberry with the acidity of the apple cider vinegar and the mustard and the cheese. And I did toasted pistachios that were salted. So the crunch of that with the arugula, the pepperiness. Oh my goodness, it was so good. This dinner just felt like the perfect fall dinner. This could be any holiday meal, really, with the fall flavors of, this feels like a harvest salad to me with the apples and the, oh gosh, fennel. This is the first time I've used fennel and it was so good. The pumpkin savory bread, you could definitely add sage to that. I'm going to cut into that and you're going to see what it looks like. But the rich, cheesy, sweet meatball, so glad I went with chicken. Everyone was super happy with the chicken meatball. The mac and cheese, I can write that recipe up for you. Oh my goodness, the sweet butternut squash or honey nut squash with all of that funky cheese, one of the best combinations ever. And you could add more chunks of butternut squash if you wanted, but after we ate it, I think it was like the perfect amount. And then that crusty top, oh, with the salad, this just felt like the perfect, well-rounded meal. And I'm just so happy with this menu. And it was so easy. I could have even had those meatballs prepped the day before and made it even easier on myself. But with life and doctor appointments and all the things, it ended up working out perfect that I was able to prep what I was able to prep the day before and then what I was able to get done on the day of. Here, I'm going to cut into this loaf. If you're a bread baker and you look at this loaf, you know it's underproofed. But again, when you put that butter on it that was salted and you dip it in that rich, sweet, creamy meatball gravy or pan sauce, whatever you want to call it, no one even noticed that was underproofed. I'm looking at it, I'm like, ugh, it's underproofed, but it still tasted delicious. And I went back and forth how I was going to cut it, but I ended up cutting it in those little wedges. So here is what my plate looks like dished up. I absolutely loved the menu. I loved the table decor. I loved the company. Did we play games on this night? No, we did not. We sat at the table, ate dinner, and then we went into the living room and we talked for hours and hours and hours. And then it was pretty late and we're like, oh, we better cut into the cake. And so we went ahead and cut into the cake. We each had just a teeny tiny slice because obviously it's a 4-layer cake and huge. And we can't go through all of this cake. It's, 6 people and basically 2 cakes on top of each other that I was able to package up cakes and I was able to send cakes home with my friends. I was able to drop cake off at the following day. Actually, we go on a family adventure and I don't think I mentioned that, but I end up dropping off some cake at my neighbors' houses because it was a big cake and there was plenty of cake to share. But I love how it turned out. The flavor was fantastic. I am going to try making a black velvet cake again, like I said, and I'm going to make the same frosting as I made today, but I want to use my mom's base of her cake with the brown sugar and just substitute the type of cocoa. And I want to see how that turns out. But here you can see what it looks like on the inside. So yummy. Last night's dinner was absolutely fantastic. The meatballs went over so well. I actually packaged up there was only 4 meatballs left. Those got packaged up, went home with my friend. Her husband wanted to take those to lunch today. I packaged up half of the mac and cheese for them to take home. I packaged up a bunch of the cake. This cake turned out so pretty. Sorry, it was super squeaky. They got to take a bunch of it home. Josh and I spent, I don't know, it probably took us like 30, 40 minutes to get all the dishes done. We hand washed what we needed to hand wash. We loaded the dishwasher, ran it this morning. I unloaded the dishwasher, ran it, and we got not just that done, but I got all the table decor put away. I gifted one of my friends one of the flower arrangements. The other one didn't want this one, so I kept this one, but she wanted some pumpkins, and I have so many pumpkins. So both my friends were able to go through. I have 3 baskets of mini pumpkins still outside, and they kind of basically had their own little pumpkin patch hunt that they were able to pick out a few pumpkins to take home to decorate with. It is pouring. We are actually getting ready as a family to pack up and go on a family adventure. The pumpkin bread also turned out really, really well. And Josh is gonna grab, you want me to get the dogs in?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna release.
I'm gonna get one at a time.
Okay, we're bringing the dogs on this adventure with us today.
Oops,
and they get really excited when
close it. Okay. One at a time.
When the leash comes out. That is always very rambunctious when they get ready to go on adventures with us. Okay, so cake was good. Dakota, you're being called. They just get really excited when they know that they're going on an adventure with us. Pumpkin flavor was really good in the bread. The Parmesan flavor wasn't super strong, so I probably could have added more Parmesan cheese, but I would absolutely do that again. It was delicious. Oh, my friend's husband did take most of that pumpkin bread that was left. Josh had 1 piece. Josh loved having the butter on the table. He said like 3 times, like, I really like having like individual butter on the table, because when you're dishing up your plate, if you do buffet style, you're not standing there trying to butter and or jam your bread. You just take your plate and your bread to the table and you butter it as needed.
The butter was awesome.
Yeah, Josh is saying the butter is awesome. And the mocktail that I made, so good. Everyone loved that. Love those little cups because you just got like a little bit. The cocktail that my friend's husband made, that went over really well with everyone. And I think that's it. Oh, the salad. Oh my goodness. I have never made a fennel apple salad before. So good. That all got eaten. I made a huge big thing of it. That all got eaten. I thought this menu was so incredibly easy. There was something so nice about being able to prep the mac and cheese, pop that in the oven, prep the meatballs before they got here, pop that in the oven. I didn't have to do any cooking on the stove. Last time they came over was the first time I did a bunch of cooking while my friends were here. And while it worked out fine and they had appetizers to eat while, I was doing that, there's something so nice about not having to cook or prep anything when they're actually here, other than I had to put the arugula in the salad. So it was so fun. So we're gonna go on a family adventure, have a very relaxed weekend, and then next week, we're gonna start on getting ready for baby number 2. We've been planning and thinking a lot about some things we have to kind of rearrange in our house to make space. And so we're gonna start some organizing projects and doing that next week. And we're gonna do some fun holiday baking next week that I'm really looking forward to. So if you're new, consider subscribing, or if you've been here before, I hope you're excited about what we're going to be cooking up and doing. We've got a bunch of organizing we need to do downstairs. So I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited for this coming week. I'm excited that you're here. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, let me pop some videos here. You can go enjoy between now and the next upload. The recipes that the mac and cheese. So good. I said that it was good, but that mac and cheese, over the top delicious. You could, if you wanted like a crunchy topping, not just like a cheesy topping, you could put like a breadcrumb topping on it, which would be really good. I will type that recipe up because that was the sweet with the funkiness of the cheese. So good. And I totally made up that chicken meatball recipe and it was good. And I used freshly ground chicken thighs that I got from New Seasons, which is a higher end grocery store. I like their butcher shop because they do a lot of their own like grinding. And I went there specifically for that chicken. And I think it was worth it because the texture of them, they were not rubbery or they were super tender and just really, really good. So that was really good. So thank you, friend, for being here. Josh is telling me it is time to go. Let me put some videos here you can go enjoy between now and the next upload. I hope you're having a great day. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.